Hi, my name is Norma Van Horn, and I visualize a world in which everyone has access to inner peace. I'm out here in the woods behind my home in Austin, Texas, and we have just had a very significant ice storm. So the surrounding area looks very different than what it usually does. Lots of big energy has been through here. And so I'm a little late in getting out the third ReWilding tip, the third step in the process of the embodied root wholeness process, which I was specifically offering to the world in honor of Tyre Nichols and his murder in Memphis. For anyone who is drawn to processing the horror of that pain, of that experience, of existing in a system in which that dynamic is prevalent and is actually very common. So because there's spiritual healing, which just means restoring wholeness, there's spiritual healing that is available through the knowledge of this experience. And the first step was to feel it, to really, those places where we are drawn to look away, to instead open, turn inward, and really allow the pain, the energy of that pain, free reign, to just do what it needs to do, to be free, and to not squash it and suppress it and deny it, but to instead turn our attention inward and to look at it. And I gave the guidance to give 24 hours over to this and to just honor and allow it, and to observe the pain so that you don't get submerged by it, but to honor it, to welcome it if you can, and to then just allow it to be free. That's the first step. The second step then is to create a little sense of separation, to become an observer at an even further point out, like maybe up in a corner somewhere, and to observe that when that energy is roiling through the system, when it's taking over, when it is just blinding us, when we're caught up in the energy of the pain, afterwards to remember to bring the perspective to a farther point and to just observe that that pain and that energy exists in one place in the entire universe, and that's inside of us in that moment. And the goal of that step is really to create a sense of separation, that it's like when the energy is activated, and this is any painful energy, that it becomes like a pair of virtual reality goggles. It becomes the lens through which we experience life, through which we filter everything that's happening around us. So number one, it distorts everything that we see, everything that we interpret. And number two, it keeps us disconnected from the life that is happening all around us. We're emotionally unavailable to the life around us, to the life within us. So just to really see and create that sense of separation. So the third step is another mental step, and it has to do with loyalty, because what we're talking about, those energetic patterns that we saw in steps 1 and 2, and if we can even remember when we're feeling that pain, what we're not doing is reacting in the habituated ways that we've always behaved. So when we're observing the pain and giving it free reign, we're not barfing the pain out, or we're not suppressing and squashing it. We're not following those habituated ways that we have of dealing with cycling energy and disembodied disconnection, dysregulated nervous systems. Instead, we're holding space for it. So when we're doing that, we are disrupting and breaking down the patterns of energetic patterns that were created that were learned and modeled within our household of origin and within our culture. So this is how we break generational trauma. This is how we break generational ways of dealing with pain. But we have to see it first. And so this step is an information step, and it has to do with loyalty. because when we break down these ways, when we start to handle our energy differently, when we start to relate to life differently, it can bring up the patterns and the fear of loyalty. So our culture really views loyalty as this exalted quality, characteristic that we should all aspire to, and it's the highest quality. But the truth is, loyalty carries the energy of fear. I'll let that sink in for a moment, and here's what I mean by that. When we are doing something out of a sense of loyalty, we're going against our truth. That's why we use it. That's why it's invoking loyalty. Because if it were what we wanted to do or would have been doing in the absence of any sort of loyalty dynamic, we would just be free to follow our energy. And so loyalty really carries the energy of fear. It's stuck energy, and we are choosing somebody else's well-being over our own. We're doing something that we would not be doing, and we typically do this to remain in good graces, to remain a part of the group, to not be rejected, to not be judged, all of those things. And those are all the energy of fear. And so in contrast, the energy of life just wants to flow freely. It just wants to be free. And another way of relating to life is simply to follow our yeses and honor our nos, and where they align with another. That's nuclear. That's the power of life. Two full yeses coming together, it's like nuclear. It's the power of life catalyzing. But when a meh and a meh come together, or when we group together based on loyalty or out of fear, it's stuck energy. It's not the energy of life. And so just to see and consider the role of loyalty in your life. As we move forward through this process, we will have the invitation and the opportunity to release the energy of loyalty with love, because we still love those people. All the people that we do those loyal acts in honor of, we still love them. But loyalty is the energy of fear. So instead of actually loving them, what we're doing is we're trauma bonding. We're agreeing in fear to remain in fear together. A more responsible and a more grown-up way of relating to life is to trust those others to handle their pain, to trust ourselves to handle our pain, instead of taking responsibility for their pain and their well-being. Leave that to them. Decide to take complete responsibility for our well-being. And then to see that the energy of life just wants to flow freely and to be free. And the energy of life is the energy of love. And we can't truly love another unless we're in love. And so just to contemplate this idea, see where it lands for you. And then I'll be back again soon with the next step in the process. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to note them below. I'd love to have a conversation, and wishing you well-being, inner peace, and blue skies.